Okay, I think I should be audible now. So please, can you hear me? Please confirm if you can. Nobody can still hear me. Please confirm if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Fulfillment. Okay, so time is fast spent. Please give me, let's say by 2:25 we'll start, please. And also, can you confirm if you can see my screen? Okay, thank you. So we'll be starting soon. Oh, wow. So your friend, my phone just went off now and I'm using the hotspot from it. I don't know if you can link it. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm saying, can you hear me? I'm trying to speak now, but okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chuku. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. So today we'll be speaking on two major important aspects of GitHub. First, we'll be talking about how to navigate the GitHub platform. And before we then talk on the GitHub student developers pack and how we can make use of it. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Give me a minute. And once again, I apologize for starting late. I had a bit of technical issues on my end. Okay. So I'll be sharing my screen soon. That's okay. Um,
Okay. Um, if you can see my screen, please notify me so we can start right now. I'm sharing my screen now. If you can see it, please notify me. Please, can you hear me? If you can see the screen, please just drop in the chat. My name is on it. Okay, thank you. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. And once again, I sincerely apologize for starting late. So, like I said earlier, we'll be covering um, GitHub, navigating the GitHub platform, and also going through the student developers pack and see how we students can make use of it. Okay, yes, I think we can start now. So basically, so we'll be starting with GitHub. We'll discuss how to navigate GitHub, the tools available in GitHub, tips on using GitHub, and if there is enough time, because we've started late, so I may not want to take too much of our time. We'll also be looking at how to, we'll be doing a practical session on the GitHub platform. So let's get into it. Um, GitHub is essentially like a tool for developers. It, it's a tool for developers, but like I say, like I tell some of my friends that are not developers, GitHub is not, cannot, yes, it's majorly for developers, but other people can use it. People like, let's say, designers, writers can also use GitHub. They can work on projects utilizing those skills, not just coding, and all. But before we get into it today, if you would like to download, although I'll be sharing the slides after, you can follow the link on your screen now to download Git. Later on, I'll be explaining the difference between Git and GitHub. But for now, if you would like to download Git, you can follow the links on the screen to download it. And you can, I would also advise you create a platform, sorry, an account with GitHub. You can just go to www.github.com to create your account. Now, let's get into it. What is Git? Git is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. So you would ask me, what is like a distributed version control system? Let's look at that. So there is a slight difference between version control system and distributed version control system. What's the difference? So a version control system manages the history of the changes to code and content so other developers can work on the same project. So basically it's like a kind of project manager, or how do I put it, that manages the files, the codes on your project in such a way that not just one person can access and work on it. Multiple people can work on it almost at the same time. Now, distributed version control system. A distributed version control system allows it to have two ways of storing your code or managing your project. What does this mean? It means you can either um, manage your project, like let's say on your laptop or your system, or you can do it on the GitHub platform I'll be talking about very soon. And just so you know, there are many other version control systems out there, but for now, Git seems to be the most popular one and the most used one. Now, how does Git work? We'll be going into that now. How does Git work? So, Git can seem a bit complicated at first, but we'll be looking at um certain we'll be looking at a few key concepts that can help us understand Git better. Let's get into that. The first concept we'll be looking at is snapshots. What are snapshots? Okay, so snapshots are like you can see the lens picture, I mean the camera picture here. So just the way cameras take um a picture of an event, it's in such a similar way that snapshots are used by Git to keep track of our code. So that essentially means that it records what all your files look like at a given point in time. And you can decide to take a snapshot of any file whatsoever at any time you want to. And Git offers you the ability to, okay, let's say you take, let's say you make an edit to your project now, you take a snapshot. Git offers you the ability to, let's say you now make multiple, you take multiple snapshots after that. Git offers you the ability to go back to previous snapshots you've made and if possible revert to those snapshots. Maybe you don't like the new changes you've made, you can revert to previous changes that were made. um let's move on. Now the next concept we'll be looking at is commit. So I said um um GitHub allows you to take snapshots of your project. That's the way GitHub tracks your project. So commit is an act of like telling GitHub that okay, oh, you are committing this project with it can take snapshot of this project. Later on, we'll be seeing okay how you can take the snapshot, how you can use commits, how you can you know actually take the snapshot. We'll be looking at it later on. Now let's look at GitHub. We've spoken about Git. Now what's GitHub? So GitHub is essentially a web-based platform for developers to store code, and GitHub uses Git to show you all the changes you have made to your code. So you can say GitHub is built on Git in such a way that people might not necessarily like the terminal interface that Git looks like. So GitHub is like that web platform with all the front end and all where you can see with all the graphic user interface and everything that you can see the changes you've made to your code using it. Let's proceed. Now key concepts to note as regards GitHub. Number one is repository, and it's often called repo by I think by many people. I call it repo. So what is a repository? A repository is basically the collection of all the files and history of those files in your project. So it consists of all the commits, the snapshots you've taken. It's just basically a place where all the work you've done for let's say a particular project is. That's what a repository is. Um Now a repository can be live on your local machine or on a remote server. And the act of copying a repository from a remote server is called cloning. So basically, what this is telling us is you can either you create the repository on GitHub, but you can then, let's say, yeah, you can then copy the repository you created on GitHub to your, let's say, your laptop or your remote server. Now, copying that repository to your remote server is what is called cloning. And when you copy to your remote server, that could be your laptop or your PC, I don't know, whatever you copy that repository to, that becomes your remote server, and doing that type of copying is called cloning. And it then allows you to okay changes that you made to the repository on your remote server. You can then we'll be talking about push later on. You can then push those changes with the aid of Git to the repository that is hosted on GitHub. Now, the process of downloading commits that do not exist on your machine from a remote repository is pulling changes. It's called pulling the changes. And what this means is, okay, let's say you didn't make these changes on your remote server, that's your laptop. You made the changes on GitHub. So how do you do this? You pull from the cloud-based server, which is GitHub. You pull the changes that were made there to your remote server, or in this instance, that is your PC. Now, the process of now adding the local changes you made on your remote server, adding it to the one on the cloud-based server, GitHub, that is what is called pushing. And basically, Git allows you to do all this, Git allows you to perform all these actions. Let's proceed. Now, branches. Okay, branches are basically there to, okay, let me create an instance. You have multiple people working on a particular project. I know through Git, you guys can push changes that okay you made on your local machine. You can push it to the GitHub server at any point in time. So imagine you guys made um, certain changes to the code, and it becomes very, let's say, okay, a code and you guys your codes are clashing. So a way to manage this is to create, let's say, different people that are working on the project should create like different branches. It's like there is a main branch. So a branch is similar, just like a clone of that main branch, but the changes you are making to the main to that branch you created are not reflecting or are not reflecting on the main branch, but they are on your own branch. So after this branch is created, you are done with your code. Then maybe the person in charge of the code database can then merge it, and if any conflict arises, can then resolve it. So that's basically what branches are for. So I mentioned commit earlier on. At the early on, sorry, I mentioned commit, and there are certain commands to know when you want to like stage a project or a file in your project onto GitHub for commit. So there is the git add command that is to put the file onto the staging environment. Then you also have the git commit command. Okay. Now, the difference between Git and GitHub, you must have I've mentioned this like I don't know how many times now. So let's look at like the major differences between Git and GitHub. First, let's look at Git. Git is a distributed version control system designed to track changes in source code during software development processes, like I said before. Now, what is GitHub? GitHub is a web-based platform that hosts Git repositories and provides a range of additional features for project management and collaboration. Now, another difference is Git needs to be installed on the developer's local machine to be used. But for GitHub, GitHub is on the web. There is no installation required to use GitHub. You can just access it via a web browser. Another difference is Git runs locally, so you don't need internet connection for Git. Once it's installed on your local machine, you can use it. But when pushing and pulling from the main from like a remote repository, that's from GitHub, you require internet connection. But for GitHub, GitHub is cloud-based, it's on the web. Most Almost anything on the web, you need internet connection to access them. So that's another difference between Git and GitHub. Sorry. So we'll be coming back to this example, but this practical session, but let's go through everything first. We'll also be coming back to the GitHub Student Developers Pack. Now, GitHub Copilot. This will also be included in the practical session also that will be carrying out. So GitHub Copilot is basically GitHub's AI. We have ChatGPT that helps with your code and all. So it's just like GitHub Copilot is there for that. Second minute. Yeah, so GitHub Copilot is like basically an AI powered coding assistant. The word coding assistant is emphasized. An AI powered coding assistant that helps developers write code faster and with fewer errors. And GitHub Copilot talks in a way that okay, it suggests codes for you. Um, as you are typing, it suggests those codes for you. And how can you use it? Like GitHub Copilot is one of the benefits of the student developers pack that I'll be talking on later on. But you can also install the extension on your, let's say your local machine. That could be your laptop to also help you, like when you're working on projects or writing certain codes. Then we have GitHub Code Spaces. So GitHub Code Spaces is like a virtual ID. How do I put it? We have Visual Studio Code. So GitHub Code Spaces is something like that, but on the web. Yeah, just the way we have Remix ID, we have different web IDs. So GitHub Code Spaces is similar to that on GitHub. So you can access GitHub Code Spaces on GitHub. I would also be taking us, I'll do a brief practical section on this too. So before we go into our practical section, let's also go into the student developers pack that I run this up, then we focus on the practical section fully. Okay, now maximizing GitHub student pack. Sorry if I might be a little bit too fast. We started late, so I want to try not to delay us further. So maximizing GitHub student pack. We've spoken about what GitHub and Git is. Now, what is the student pack? Okay, yes. So the GitHub student pack is basically a collection of like premium tools, services, and educational resources that are either free or distributed, or like yeah, either free or heavily discounted for students. So basically, the tools available in the GitHub student pack are tools that um you would necessarily have to pay for. You normally would have to pay for them, but you can access them for free or at a discount using the GitHub Student Developers Pack, and it gives access to like over 100 developer tools and resources across different categories. As will be seen later on, these tools are not only for developers. Whether you're into coding, you're into design, you're into cloud computing, or you're learning new technologies, the student GitHub, the students, the GitHub Student Developers Pack is something that will be beneficial to you. Now let's move forward. Eligibility. So to be eligible for the GitHub Student Developers Pack, you must be enrolled in a degree or a diploma granting or a diploma course, sorry. You must be enrolled in a degree or a diploma course at any recognized institution. And of course, you must also have a GitHub account. You must also have a GitHub account. If you would like to sign up for the Git, I think I'll paste the link in the chat now. You can just go to this. Um, you can go to the website I'll be posting in the chat now to register. So basically, you will just be asked to um, verify your student details, things like that, for them to confirm that you're actually a student. Then, after you go through the process, you fill the form, you answer everything, you then be reached out to, and most likely you get the pack. So let's proceed. Now, the categories of tools available. We have the development and collaboration tools, majorly for developers. That's GitHub Pro, Visual Studio Code. We also have the ones for designers. We have Canva Pro, Figma, and many other tools like that. Then we have for those that okay, are looking to learn new technologies. We have for those that are into cloud and cloud hosting. So one of the key benefits of the GitHub Student Pack is GitHub Pro. As a developer, you have access to private repositories, um, collaboration tools, GitHub pages for hosting websites, project management tools, and many more. You even also have access to the JetBrains, GitHub Actions, automated workflows, and professional grade IDs like PyCharm. As a designer, you have access to Canva Pro, you have access to Figma Pro, you have access to Namecheap. So, like I said before, it's not restricted to developers only. As a designer, as a writer, as mean, not just limited to development space, you can take advantage of using the GitHub Student Pack. If you are also one that okay, you are not really in the tech space, but you hope to learn new or you hope to learn certain web technologies, the GitHub Student Pack is also for you. There are learning resources available in the GitHub Student Pack. Now, another category of the tools available in the GitHub Student Pack is cloud hosting resources. One of the benefits of the GitHub Student Pack is free credit for cloud computing services, and you get access to Microsoft Azure, AWS Educate, DigitalOcean, and many more. Now, best practices for using GitHub Student Pack: be organized, keep track of all. Okay, I guess you can hear me now. So if you can see my screen, you see the GitHub Foundation certification that was recently added to the GitHub Developer Student Pack. So basically, if you have access to the GitHub Student Developers Pack, then you can have access to this certification. So this and many more are the advantages of using the GitHub Student Developers Pack. Let's proceed. Another best practice I would recommend to use. So, like I said, regularly check the resources available. Um, use the tools, collaborate with people, engage with other people to contribute to open source projects. Okay, in the slides I'll be sending to you, there are learning resources that you can use to also learn more about the GitHub Student Pack and also get badges on the Microsoft Learn platform. Because Microsoft Learn is like can I call it like a online tech library where you have access to like different resources to learn about various technologies. If you want to learn about GitHub Copilot, you want to learn about Azure, you want to learn about React, you want to learn about the various technologies, you can just go to the Microsoft Learn platform, and you even get as a student you have access to um credits. If you are someone that is into cloud, you have access to credit that you can use to practice on the Azure platform. So let me conclude this so that we can then go into our practical session. Conclusion. Um, I've spoken on the value of the GitHub Student Pack and how as students we have this available to us, so we should maximize it. Now, let's get into our practical session. Our time is fast spent. I'll just basically take us through creating a GitHub repository, adding files, committing files, pulling, pushing, those basic things are what we'll be covering. Okay. Okay, let's get into GitHub. So if you are new to GitHub, you can just come here to sign up. Just go to github.com. But I have an account, so let me sign in. Okay. I might need to carry out some authentication. So I would advise that when you sign up, if you are new to GitHub, when you sign up, you also um, carry out some authentications on your to protect your GitHub account. So let me do this. I need to stop sharing my screen. Oh, I was not even sharing my screen before. Okay, I've been able to sign in. Let me share my screen back. Okay, yeah, fulfillment. I can see your question. Will the Canva Pro and other resources be free? Yes, they'll be free. Once you are granted access to the GitHub Students Pack, you have access to these resources for free. So, let's go back to our presentation. So, I've been able to log in now. You can access your repositories here. I think the network is a bit slow. Mm. Okay, so you just come here. You come, you're taken to. I don't really have a lot of the repositories. So I think I'm having a little issue with my network. Yes, it's taking time. Okay. So now, when you want to create the repository, you enter. It's compulsory. You enter the repository name. Well, I'll just be putting what is it called? I'll just put GitHub session description. That should be. I think. Okay. Yeah, I'm back now. Okay. So you have the option of making your repository public or private. Then you can add a readme, although those ones are optional. You can later on create them. So let's create the repository. Let's create it. We'll just to round up very soon. Our time is fast spent already. Okay, okay. Create it. Okay, that's been created. Okay, yes. So our repository has been created. Now you have the option of either you can like I mentioned code spaces. With this now, you can just go to code spaces direct and start building your project with the ID on GitHub. Or you can then take this link that is here and clone it to your local machine. Maybe if you are using VS Code like I'll be using, you can just copy it and see. Um, you can see they've even outlined the processes of pushing and committing files to the repository. But what we are doing now is to clone it to our private, to our local machine. I think let me copy this. So let's go to, you can use any ID, but for me I'll be using VS Code. Okay. And remember earlier on I mentioned something about using GitHub Copilot in your ID. If you are someone that is using VS Code, you can just come to extensions and search for Copilot. And search for Copilot, it will bring up to the number of extensions. Then you see GitHub Copilot, which you can then install. Yes, this is it. So you can just click on it. So I have it installed already. So if it was not installed, you'll have seen install here instead of uninstall. So just click on install, then you can begin to use Copilot. Now we need to clone the repository we created. So to clone a repo from GitHub, basically you use the command git clone, then the repository link. But I think we might face an issue with this because GitHub gives you, like, when you sign up to GitHub, you get token. You can get like access token such that it's you, the authenticated user, that can push to the created repository. But I would not like to expose my GitHub token, but would be allowed to clone. But I think at the point of pushing, we might face an issue. But let's clone. It's cloning. Why is this taking time? So, I mentioned that yes, to use Git, you don't really need internet connection at all. But when you need to do something that is now involving the web and involving GitHub, such like actions like git clone, git push, git pull, you might then need a strong internet connection. So it's our repo has been cloned already. So what I want us to test is, let's make changes to the repository. Let's create a file. Let's call it test.sci. We'll also demonstrate Copilot. You can see Copilot already in the ID telling you to write something. Um, let's create a simple function, a Py function of addition. You don't necessarily have to be a Py developer or anything. I'm just using this as just to practice, just to show. So there, uh, not for this time. This Copilot is supposed to bring like a suggestion. Yeah, you can see. So basically, you just press tab for you to accept the command. You want to create something more. You can see it's giving me suggestions. So basically, when using GitHub Copilot, you also need to know what you are doing, because it's it's giving you suggestions, but you also need to know that if the suggestions giving you are suggestions you want or not. See now, I didn't have to type this. It's giving me the test case that I can use to test the function that I created. So that's it for Copilot. Let's do this. So we've created a file in our local on our local machine on the repository. Now let's push it to GitHub. To push a file or a folder on your local machine, you do git. But before we do that, to check files that are not committed, and when I mean committed, as snapshots have not been taken off yet, you just use the command git status. If you check online, you can see a lot of these necessary commands. But this, I think, these are the common ones. Git status. Oh, mm, you need to perform it in a GitHub repository, a Git repository. So you can see it's telling us we've not committed the test.py file. So let's do that. To commit a file and then push it to GitHub, you do git add the file. Let me write this. The file name, that's test.py. Then you commit it, git commit. This is you taking a snapshot of the file. Git commit. Then you add a message. Um, creating a test file. That's the test. You can use any message. Creating a test file. Then you push. I'm guessing I might have an issue here. I'm trying to push. This it's asking me to sign in with my browser. If I add once you're able to do this, you sign into your browser, you get the token or you input your token. You know I mentioned the token before. Once you input the access token, you'll be able to like push to that GitHub repository. It's like a form of authentication, so that not just anyhow person can push to your repository. So once you're able to do this and you follow the process, you push, the files you created here will be shown on the GitHub repository that you created. But let's assume, okay, you are not creating a new file and you just want to like, you've made changes on the GitHub repository. Let's go back there. You can come here. Okay. Or you can just come to Git code spaces. I think this might take a bit of time. I want us to round up in the next lesson. So you can just come here and create a new code space. And if at all, okay, you don't want to create a new code space, once a file is present in the GitHub, once a file is present in your repository, you'll be able to also make changes directly, although you'll be limited in a way somehow, but you'll be able to make changes directly from GitHub. And such changes you can then come to Visual Studio Code here and do git pull. And then this pull, it pulls the changes you've made on GitHub. So I think that's basically it. I don't want to waste much time resolving those issues. This was supposed to end by 3 and it's spent a lot of time. So I have questions here. So basically what we discussed is how what is GitHub, difference in Git and GitHub, how do you navigate the GitHub platform. Um if you also even want to learn more about If you also want to learn more about GitHub and how to navigate the platform, in the slides I'll be sharing with us by our mail, you there will be like a link to the Microsoft Learn platform where you can have access to resources to learn more about GitHub. And okay, now the GitHub Student Developers Pack. I will advise us as students, if you are a student here, to um sign up. To sign up, there are actually a lot of benefits that you can get from using the GitHub Student Developers Pack as a student. So let me before we close, our time is fast spent. Before we go close, let me answer the questions. I think I've answered. Will Canva Pro and other resources be free? Yes, once you have access to GitHub Student Pack. Is it as university student mail we can use or any random mail? Okay, so the reason why you'll be using your student mail is so that they can verify that you're a student. So the answer to that question is your university student mail. And how do you verify? Okay, so let me even take us through the process of right here. So we're closing in 3 minutes now. Once again, I apologize for starting late. Okay, I think this is so as not to waste much time. So for the question on how do you verify, so when you're applying, you'll be told to enter your student name. I think then I think a mail will be sent to your student email account. Then some kind of verification will be done. Then you then have access to the. Let me see if this thing will load. So I can just show us how to go about it. If you have any more questions, please you can drop them in the chat or check them out. Okay. Signed in already. I'm signing. If I have access to it already signed, I need to sign up now. That's be able to move it. Like I'm having my network is a bit slow. Okay, so as not to waste much time. Yes, I'll also be sending a recording of the meeting. So as not to waste much time. You can reach me via my mail because it's looking like if you have any issues verifying any issue whatsoever as regards okay verifying your student's mail or accessing the GitHub application, um GitHub student pack, you can reach me via my mail or even issues regarding GitHub. I'll try to the best of my ability to help you sort it out. And you can also reach me via the following platforms: Twitter, LinkedIn. I would like to share my WhatsApp because I'm not so very active on WhatsApp. But you can reach me out on these platforms. So after this call, I'll be sharing the slides and the two slides basically. The two slides with us. So, and also the recording for the person who asked, I'll be sharing it with us. Then we can go through it. If there are also any other questions you would like to ask, you can reach me via my mail or via any of the platforms listed in Adin. Yeah, any of the platforms shown in the slide. So, still loading. So for Rema, I guess. For Rema and other people that may have questions, if you can't drop it, you can reach me by my mail. So for Rema, on how to verify the student mail, I'm trying to do that now, it's not doing. So if you have any issues whatsoever verifying your student's email, you can just reach me out, you can reach out to me on via my mail or via the social media platforms I listed. Is that fine? Okay, thank you. So thank you everyone for attending to this session. I'm very grateful. Like I said, I'm open to questions. You guys can reach out to me if you have any issue. Thank you for joining today's session. And you'll be receiving a mail from me once again containing the slides and the recording for this session. Thank you.